Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Overview. Wow, it's been a while since I've had to do one of these. It's going to be one focused around the current operation that is ongoing as we speak, and that is Operation Plaguestar. Now, Plaguestar at its core is an event revolving around the plains of Eidolon, where a huge infested boil has crash-landed onto the plains, is now threatening to turn it into another Aeris, completely consuming it, threatening the way of life of the Ostrons and Cetus. As you can imagine, it's up to us to deal with it. So what do you have to do? Well, honestly, the event is very super simple. You go to Konzu, check the bounties. At the top will be one called Plaguestar. Start up that one and head out onto the plains. Fayhek is handily producing some toxin that can deal with the infested. So, naturally, the first thing we need to do is go steal it. To do that, head down to the newly opened up caves and find the thing inside that is producing the toxin, interact with it, and steal the toxin from it. Then head to the marker on the map, which is a mixer inside one of the armoured vaults that the Grineer have. Interact with it to insert the toxin into the mixer, and this is where the mission can do one of three things. You can put nothing else into the mixture, which means at the end of the mission, you're going to get 1,000 standing to spend at the new Operation Reputation vendor, which is Nakak. It's the kid that sells the masks in Cetus. You go to him, and you will see the option for the operation in there. You can also put in Eidolon Phalanxes for a boost of 250 standing per Phalanxes used, up to a maximum of 1,000 extra standing, and you can put in as many as you want. If you're solo, you can put in all 4, and that means you will get 2,000 standing per mission. Now the Phalanxes does require Iridite though, so that might be a bit of a bottleneck for people. I know it is for me. I need to farm some more of that to build more of these. Or you can also put in the Eidolon Phalanxes as well as the Infested Catalysts. You build them using the blueprint you get from your clan once it's done the research in the Infested Lab in the dojo. They're pretty cheap with them requiring none of the new materials. It's only really stuff that people are going to have tons of stacked up anyway, so it's not going to be a problem for most people, even most newer players. What this allows for is the spawning of the Hemocyte boss in the final stage of the mission, more of which I'll talk about a little bit later. It's going to also boost the standing earned up to 3,000 per mission when you combine it with the Phalanxes. Once you've done the previously mentioned things, you will retrieve the toxin from the mixer and bring it to a Grineer drone, which you will then have to escort across the plains to the boil, where it will eventually administer the toxin and start the final stage of the mission. Now the final stage of the mission can do one of two things. If you spawn only, if you only use the Phalanxes, you have to purge a bunch of infested until the meter on the left of the screen fills up. I'd recommend leaving the spawn pods alive so you purge the infested as quickly as you possibly can. After that, the mission ends and you can go back to Cetus and pick the bounty up again and just, well, do it all over again. If you use the catalysts as well, you get to the boil and you will get 4 spawns of the infested Hemocyte, which is essentially a mini Lephantis that just emerges out of the boil. The fight itself is actually the same as the normal Lephantis. Just wait for the parts to open up, then shoot him in the weak spots until he pops. Do that to all 3 heads and he will die. When he dies, he will drop one of the new Hunter mods, and I'm going to do a special modular episode on that in the near future, along with the Hemocyte Crystallith that you will need to build the trophies in the clan dojo. They float in the air and make a noise on pickup similar to that of the Eidolon shards, so you're going to notice when you pick those up. And that's pretty much the entire event in a nutshell. The rewards from the event range from infested Zor parts to the Snipetron Vandal, and even the rare minerals and fish parts that you can all buy with standing. You can even buy built former, which made my face light up as soon as I realised that. Now it's just a case of just doing this over and over and over again. For that standing, you need to pick up whatever you want from the rewards from the operation. One good trick if you're farming the mods and the crystalliths is that your standard farming frames do work in this situation. Use Necros for Desecrate, Hydroid for the Pilfer Droid for getting additional loot from the Hemocyte boss. And that works for both crystalliths and the mods, so it's worth farming and just going in and farming it with friends like this, especially if you're going to go for clan trophies and stuff like that. There really isn't much more to talk about in terms of actually running the event itself. However, I did want to just take a second to talk about my thoughts on the event and talk about whether I enjoyed it. Well, I'm going to put it bluntly, I don't enjoy this operation at all. It is the same mission over and over and over again. There's a tiny bit of variety with 1 of 3 different caves and a couple of different mixing locations, but honestly, that's it. It's still the same mission every time. Even if you summon the boss, it's the same mission. Now there's just a boss fight at the end of it. The enemies aren't high level either, meaning it's pretty much of a walk in the park for most experienced players, which is fine. This event to me feels definitely aimed more at players that just started the games with Planes of Eidolon rather than veteran players. But with the lack of any competitive edge, it really leaves very little for an experienced player to get excited by or even challenged by. It becomes, honestly, a boring, monotonous grind after a few missions. It's something that I honestly, I don't really want to run myself anymore. Even though I will to get the minerals I need to build my arcanes, my operator and amp, I'm just really not a fan of the way the operation is, and I got bored of it super quickly. If we had something that maybe scaled in some way, or you could stay on the planes for scaling enemies and bosses, for example, rather than constantly having to go back to Konzu for him to tell us the same thing for the 10,000th time. Oh, it's the toxin is in a cave. It's one of these 3 caves that you know about and have seen every single time. And then honestly, you could tie in a leaderboard around that. And there might have been something to keep older players and those that enjoy the competitive edge in events and keep those people interested. But right now, it's just left me wanting more. Something different, rather than the same mission over and over again. I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts in the comments below, whether you're enjoying the event or not, and whether you have any tips for the event. I'm going to have videos up in the next few days with the event related stuff, but for now, many thanks for watching, and I shall see you in the next video.